All right. I'm going to record this as a special catechism time um, because not only do I want to teach you girls what is going on in the world out there, but I want to influence the world for Jesus at the same time. So it's two birds with one stone. Okay. So get yourself a, you know, and uh, there's a lot. I want you guys to remember something, a phrase. It's called situational awareness. Say that. Yeah. Okay. That can be used in a lot of different contexts, but it's not hard to understand uh, what the expression means. It means being aware of your situation that you're in. Being aware, making yourself aware of the current situation that you're in. And we need to have some of that. Um, and there are some people that are more aware than others. Uh, and these people who are aware oftentimes follow political news all the time, watch Fox News every single day, and some people are cut out for that. I'm not, and um, I don't think that Thomas A. Kempis in his book The Imitation of Christ was really all that wrong when he told people don't listen to the news because it'll just stress you out and distract you from God. Smith Wigglesworth did the same thing. He wouldn't let any newspaper in his house because he said he didn't let lies in his house. But I think it's extreme to take a point of view like that. For the longest time, I just completely cut it out because I grew up with a sort of unhealthy overload of it, and it was boring to me, tasteless, and it just it's not healthy because you fill your heart with all of these woes of the world, and there's not a whole lot that you can do about it. And it doesn't, and your heart and your mind get full of all of this distracting, what are called newsmakers. You know, this just in, hot off the press, blah blah blah. This person was murdered. Now everybody, let's talk about it. And it's kind of like, and it goes on every single week. And yeah, that can send you into a state of panic. That's called sensationalism, right? But at the same time, uh, if the people in the Bible were not situationally aware of the fact that they were being invaded by the Babylonians, for example, uh, or if the Philistines, or if they were not situationally aware that there's this guy Goliath over there with an entire army of people behind them, what would have happened? I mean, there comes a point where you got to say, okay, there some news you got to let in your life, or you're going to suffer the repercussions of it if you don't. Yeah, it will affect you eventually, and but uh, as your dad, it's not my plan for you guys to be completely inundated with newsmakers. For your mom and I to be talking about newsmakers all the time in this house. I think the Bible is supposed to take that place, according to Deuteronomy 6, you know, catechism and Bible, because how can you walk with God if the only conversation piece in the family are newsmakers about the latest murders? No, it's not going to make you feel good. How can you base your family around news? And a lot of these people do, and they end up divorced for it because that's all they got going on. News and sports. Hey, everybody, let's go to the football game. Let's go to the baseball game. Let's go to the basketball game. Let's go to the stadium. Did you get your ticket, masters? Blah, blah, blah. Here's a newsmaker. Let's eat. Let's go to the restaurant now. Newsmaker, newsmaker, newsmaker. Hey, let's talk about a newsmaker. Hey, it kind of it reaches a point where your whole lifestyle is just as shallow as can be. Now, at the same time, we need political news. We need it because if we didn't have it, uh, we would completely lack situational awareness. And invaders could come into our country and we would be completely surprised. So, news plays a very important role in giving us a sense of alarm, a sense of warning, a sense of um, preparedness. It's like a tornado warning, exactly, Mary. But there's a healthy way to approach it, and then there's an unhealthy way. The unhealthy way means that we push the Bible completely out of our lives. And dads and moms never talk the Bible to their kids. It's just news. It's just sports. It's just how's your report card doing. That's shallow because that doesn't meet your spirit's needs. It doesn't answer the most basic fundamental questions about human existence. Where did I come from and where am I going? You know? So, but what I'm going to do here, though, with that being said, I do want to share with you guys some situational awareness type things that are going on in our world around us and how we're supposed to think about this. You know, you've heard me say it before and I'll say it again, and I don't have a problem drilling this into your minds to make you more situationally aware. But we got some communists in this country. That's the first thing I want to bring up. We need to be aware of this. We need to become aware of this. Communists are very dangerous groups of people. They come in all shapes and sizes and in all races. But communists are usually people that call themselves Democrats. They call themselves Democrats. Say Democrats. Okay. I was not very aware of this subject until about a year ago. I've become gradually more aware of this issue. See, it used to be that Democrats were perceived as just a lot of sort of emotive, compassionate people that wanted to help the down and out. You know, they wanted to help the minority groups. They wanted to help the people who were poor. I mean, at least this is the way they were perceived in the public. And that when they voted themselves a president into office and we got ourselves a Democrat president, that Democrat president would fight for the rights of the poor. That Democrat president would try to see to it that there were all sorts of social programs like food stamps and Medicaid and maybe even assistance to get a home. And that's what we used to think a Democrat was about. But as time progressed, it became less that and more like communism. And it's gotten to the point that it is definitely becoming communism with Democrats. I mean, yes, as of the year 2026, it is starting to seriously look like it would be completely fair to say something like this: Democrat equals communist. So I'm going to explain to you what a communist is, because it's sort of a complicated belief system. Now, communism is a cult, kind of like the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they've got all these special words that they use to be able to speak to one another. It's kind of like code language and stuff. They've come up with their own little words. Like communistic self is a word that they made up. They've got all kinds of other words that they create, like capitalism and socialism and stuff like that. And so I'm going to try to make this nice and plain and easy, and to get you guys to understand what this cult does. First off, it's a cult of politics, or it's not to be confused with normal people who just want to work in the government. These people are very strange, and they're weird, and they've been around our society in America for about 100 years, but they've been under the radar and haven't had really a whole lot of influence at all. We haven't really taken them seriously as a threat because they've just had kind of little communist clubs here and there. But now it's becoming a very serious thing in our society. And uh, communism is a complicated cult-like system that tries to weave its way into whatever political system is set up in the government of any type of country, and they weasel their way into it, and then they take over the country. And when that happens, it's a nightmare. And it's been going on like this in all kinds of countries: Russia, Germany, China, Venezuela, Cuba. And now we've got people coming into the Democrat Party, and they're trying to do that to our country now. And it's a very scary thing. You need to be aware of this. I want you girls to be aware of this. Not to the point where I want you to be, worrying every single day. I just want you to be aware that our country's starting to become, sadly enough, slightly more dangerous than it was a couple years ago. It's becoming slightly more dangerous to live in because of these people. And we need to be aware of that. So what do communists believe? Well, I'll explain that now. So the first thing is that communists are anti-Christian. They're atheistic. They are against the Bible. They hate Christians, and they would like to kill them if they could get away with it. Okay, that's the first thing you need to understand. Well, there's a lot of things that they like and think about, and I'll get into all of those things here in a moment. Yes. Well, that's part of the story, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. Um, Communists want to steal everybody's stuff from them and give it to a few people at the top of the government. Right? That's the number one goal, right? Because they're anti-God, because they're anti-Christian, because they're against the Bible, they're also against the Ten Commandments. So literally everything in the Ten Commandments, they're against it. They are against the worship of God, which is the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. They are against the prohibition of idolatry. You shall have no other graven image of me. They make graven images of the communist leaders and worship them. They take the name of God in vain. They use God's name as a cuss word, and they laugh about it. They do not remember the Sabbath day or keep it holy. They don't go to church. They would rather destroy and burn all churches. And they would like to beat up pastors, beat them up, and kill them. They're evil. They're very evil. The next commandment is honor your father and mother who love God. No. Communists are oftentimes people who are either A, coming from atheistic families, or B, they're coming from Christian families and have rebelled against Christ. And so they do not honor the Christian parent. They do not honor the Christian family. Thou shalt not kill. Communists kill all the time. It's the number one way that they can overthrow governments. They don't declare war. They assassinate people. They kill people. They kill people. They're killers. They're murderers. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Communists are immoral. Communists actually want prostitution to be okay. not a crime. Communists want to get rid of moms and dads. Communists communists want kids to not be with their mom and dad anymore and just live in an orphanage. Communists want to break up families, separate kids from their mom and dad, put the kids into an orphanage, make the mom and dad work in a factory for the rest of their life. Um, Communists, the next commandment is thou shalt not steal. Communists steal. The whole concept of communism is based on steal everything from everybody in the entire country, mainly through H&R Block, by making you give more money than normal, but also through all sorts of other ways. Give them your car, give them your house, and then you get moved into a ghetto type apartment complex, and everything's falling apart all the time. That's what they want to do to you, and they want to separate kids from their families. Then the next commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. Communists bear false witness all the time. There are news channels that are owned and operated by communists. CBS, NBC, what else is there? CNN. These are communist channels. So if you're going to watch the news, watch something like Fox News or something like that on the internet where you clearly are getting a Republican message, where people believe in the way the government was set up in our country. That's what Republicans believe in. We believe in letting America be governed by the way George Washington set it up. That's what Republicans are all about. Democrats, they want to be like communists. They want to get rid of George Washington's way of government and create a communist country, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Last commandment is thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Well, you see, communists do that big time. Because all communists can ever think about is, well, these rich people over here are so much richer than everybody else, and all these other people are poor, and that's really messed up. And so all they ever do is they have these clubs, and they get mad, they get each other mad about the fact that there's rich people over there, and there's poor people over here, and that's really jacked up. And so they try to make it look like they're Robin Hood, that they're going to come and save the day, and get back at all those rich people, as if there was no good rich people, as if everybody who's rich is evil because they're rich, as if everybody who's rich is evil just because they're rich, as if everybody who's rich is evil just because they're rich. Okay, so that's part of their false witness, and they use these news medias, and it's not just channels like CBS and NBC and CNN. It's in ABC. It's also newspapers like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune and big time USA Today. These big time newspapers all have journalists, writers, and news reporters with communist ideas. But here's the crazy thing about communism. Like I said, communism breaks all 10 of the 10 commandments when it can. But communists understand that you can't really flagrantly out and out break the 10 commandments all the time. I can't do that now. And so you can't flagrantly break the 10 commandments all the time, because if that were the case, people would be being arrested all the time. And we don't want our communist brothers and sisters to be arrested, now do we? All right? And they call each other comrade. That's another jargony, made-up cult word, comrade. They make all these little keywords to make them feel like they're part of some club, okay? Well, okay, so these people are secretive. It kind of operates like a secret society, like the Freemasons. It operates like a secret society, and they have these clubs where they can be all open about it and talk out and out about all of their it's a conspiracy ideology. Conspiracy literally means a club of people coming together to conspire to talk about overthrowing a government and taking it over. That's also called treason, betraying your country. So communists want to destroy the Constitution, burn the American flag, and completely overthrow the entire way our government is set up. So because communists are liars, they're liars. They make you believe that everybody's going to be the same, monetarily wise, but it never works out that way. What ends up happening is you end up with what's called an oligarchy. And that means that you end up with like 20 people running the country that are super rich, and everybody lives in absolute slavery. That's how communism always turns out. And so these oligarchy people at the top, they become like gangsters. It's Egyptian all over again. It's Pharaoh all over again. And the word we use to describe that is dictator. No. Why is your question about that? Well, here's the difference. Here's the difference between the oligarchy scenario of what I was describing in communism and what we have in America. Donald Trump is a very rich billionaire. So is Elon Musk. Both of them have played a role in our American government recently. Okay? But you don't have to be a mega billionaire to be a president in this country. There have been several examples of presidents who have gone from rags to riches, Abraham Lincoln being an example of that. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. I've been in it. It's in Kentucky. So you don't have to be a mega billionaire to be a president in this country. Okay. And yes, power does go to people's heads oftentimes and can corrupt them. But here's the difference between what we have in American government in Washington, D.C. and the oligarchy of communists. Scenario one is the oligarchy of communists has absolutely no way to get rid of the problem other than arresting and killing them. They're tyrants. They're gang leaders. They torture Christians. They lie about Christians to torture them because they hate the Bible. That's the first thing. Now, scenario two is what we have in America. We have people at the top who are powerful and wealthy, who control the departments of our government. But if they do wrong and they start mistreating other people, we have two groups. One's called the Congress and the other's called the House of Representatives. Each of these groups have separate buildings down in Washington, D.C. Each of these groups have about 50 people in them, I think. Each of them are voted into office from the states from which they come, and then we put them on airplanes and fly them in to Washington, D.C. to go over there and live there. Those are called representatives because they represent our state. And he goes to Washington, D.C. to represent us and our concerns that we email him about on his website. And he will go into the House of Representatives and talk about those things that we're concerned about. And then they will put it to a vote down there. Okay, so because we have this system set up with these representatives voting and communicating with the citizens of each state, the people, even me, I could actually bring up an issue for people to talk about in the House of Representatives tomorrow if I wanted to. All I'd have to do is email my representative and ask him to talk about it tomorrow, and then we could go on C-SPAN and see if they talk about it. I have enough power to be able to have my voice heard by people in Washington, D.C. Okay? And so if the president starts to act like a dictator, we can impeach him. Impeaching means that we put it to a vote that this president is acting like a dictator and he needs to be fired. And he will be replaced by what we call the vice president, which is why we have a vice president. The whole thing is set up to avoid dictatorship. It's the best thing that we can come up with. And it's worked very well. And some people have even said that this government is the best government that's ever been invented in the history of the world. I don't know about that. But it's a very smart setup. And this year we celebrate our 250th year as the United States of America. But so many other governments have operated as an oligarchy. England being an example, big time oligarchy. Monarchy, oligarchy, same. Because they can only allow people to be in the king or in the queen role if they come from a certain royal family or certain rich person family. That's oligarchy. So whether you want to call it one or the other, it's the same concept. There's absolutely no way to depose a person politely if they're mistreating the people in those setups. But in our country, it is possible. Yeah. But England has learned their lesson since we created the United States of America as a government setup. And they've copied us in some ways. So, but England in the 1600s was a different story. They were more like a dictatorship, like these communist countries are. But they were a Christian dictatorship. So even then, they were a little bit better. Communist countries are awful because they're dictatorships or monarchies based on anti-Christian hatred and the destruction of all things that are holy. It's written into their books. They teach their kids to be anti-Christian, to hate Christians, and to hate Jews. They're also what's called anti-Semites. Say anti-Semites. That's a person who hates Jewish people for no reason other than that they're Jews. An anti-Christian is a person who hates Christians for no other reason than that they're just Christians. And both Jews and Christians got one thing in common. The Old Testament and the Ten Commandments, both of which completely condemn communism. So this is good for them to hate Jews and Christians because this means that they can destroy the Bible, they can destroy Judeo-Christianity. These people are sick to the core. I mean, it's literally, if the devil could invent a government, he would invent communism. It serves his purposes perfectly. The next thing that communists want to do is they want to steal your stuff. Okay, so what are they going to do? They're going to take your house away. They're going to take your farm away. They're going to increase all the money that you have to give at H&R Block so that you feel like you're always poor all the time and you can never save anything. Take all of your inheritance away. So if I become old and rich and I want to give money to you guys, sorry, you get gypped. They confiscate all of your stuff. All of your stuff. It's all based on confiscating your stuff all the time. You know, police come to your house and point guns at you, beat you up, call you a stupid Christian, and then they just steal stuff. That's what they do. What? Right. They make it look good for a while, and then once they come to power, they act like the devil himself. hmm No, you're right. They make them look like these compassionate social justice warriors that want to do nothing other than just help poor people. And then they make people poor and beat people up who are Christians. That's what communism is in a nutshell. What? Yeah. Listen to this. Listen to this. Karl Marx, he wrote a book called The Communist Manifesto. And he said, the abolition of this state of things is called by the bourgeoisie abolition of individuality and freedom, and rightly so. The abolition of bourgeoisie individuality, bourgeoisie independence, and bourgeoisie freedom is undoubtedly aimed at. Now notice they're coming up with pretend make-up words. Like I said, they're a cult. They create words. Bourgeoisie is a word that they create to 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 describe rich people, all rich people, both Christian and non-Christian. And this is the enemy. We must fight the enemy. Why? Why do they brainwash people to fight the rich? I'll tell you why. So that they can steal all their stuff and use it for themselves. That's why they create in the minds of the communist followers this concept that the rich are bad. Why are they bad? Well, let's attack them. Why? Because that's what they want to do. They want to take their stuff so that they can create concentration camps and kill all Christians and Jews. They're the most evil government concept that has ever been invented is communism. It is the most evil government concept. Karl Marx. Karl Marx did. In the 1800s wrote a book called Communist Manifesto. And so you need to know that Muhammad was a pedophile. He married a 9-year-old girl and had sex with her when she was 9. Her name was Aisha. And he comes from Arabia. And for some reason or another, these Muslims that think Muhammad was sinless, they work with communists. They work together. It's called the Red-Green Alliance because Saudi Arabia is where Islam comes from, and they have a green flag. And communism comes from Russia, which has a red flag. So they call it the Red-Green Alliance because they both believe in dictatorship, and they both believe in killing Christians and Jews and destroying the Bible. But the thing of it is that communism is totally different than Islam. And Islam's totally different than communism, but they are agreed on this one point. They hate Jews, they hate Christians, they hate the New Testament. And they want to overthrow America. And so some might believe that the communists might take over America. Some might believe that the Muslims might take over America. So as long as the Christians are overthrown, this they can agree on. The first war will be against the Christians. Then they will overcome American government. After that problem is done, the next war will be between the communists and the Muslims to see which one is going to take over the country. So the Red-Green Alliance is based on a mutual hatred of Christian government. And these people are in the Democrat Party now. And it's become such a big thing now that where the Statue of Liberty is, which is the symbol of America, New York City, north of here about 500 miles or so, has now a mayor in it that is a communist Muslim, and his name is Mamdani. Now, something you need to understand. Listen, something you guys need to understand. Communists, when they have not yet taken over the country, the whole country, right? If they're just some sort of a mayor in some city, that's one thing. They don't come out and say, hey, I mean, communists, because like I said, they bear false testimony against bear false witness. They lie. They're big time liars, right? J. Edgar Hoover, he was the guy who led the FBI. The FBI is a group in Washington D.C. of detectives that try to find different types of criminals doing secretive criminal things. And they will go after groups like the mafia and different criminal groups that are doing secret, shady things. It's called the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And the FBI historically has been responsible for arresting communists. And so the FBI is really the people that we need to pray to God. God, please help the FBI to arrest these communists so they do not cause great harm to our country. And I even emailed the FBI about a week ago about my concerns. And this is how I emailed them. I said, J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI, wrote the top book against communism. It was called Masters of Deceit, the story of communism in America and how to fight it. And why did he call them Masters of Deceit? Because they're conspirators that want to commit treason. They want to overthrow the entire United States government that George Washington set up. They want to completely destroy it, all of it, so that they can persecute and kill Christians and Jews. That's what they want to do. And you guys are going to grow up knowing that communists are all over the Democrat Party. This wasn't the Democrat Party that we were growing up around, but it's become that. It has become that. It has become a political party of homosexual, Muslim-loving communists. Homosexuals have always been on the communist side of things, but now it's just flagrant as can be. And another thing, they indoctrinate. One of the things Karl Marx said in the Communist Manifesto, public schools for all children, because the government then is able to teach children evolution, so they will not believe in God. So they will not believe in God. Because what communists want to do is they want to make the whole country atheist. And they can't make the whole country atheist unless they believe in evolution first. And so they have to have these kids being taught evolution in the schools. And so that's where the public school concept comes from Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto. All right? It's not good. It's not good. So Catholic schools, Baptist schools, that comes from the Bible. Jewish synagogues, that comes from the Bible. That's where kids are taught according to the Bible. But the public schools, kids are not even taught about God. They can go years and years without even thinking about him. Because that's communist brainwashing of children. Am I making sense? Because they want all the people in the country to be atheists just like them. Am I making sense? So you can literally teach children to not believe in God. You can teach just like you can teach them to have faith in God. And that will invite the angelic presence in their life. That will invite the Holy Spirit into their life when they trust the Word. But when people are taught, teaching children, what did Jesus say? It would be better if a millstone were wrapped around their neck and they were thrown into the depths of the sea, drowned in the depths of the sea, if they mislead the faith of these little ones. And that's what they do. And so a cloud comes over the minds of the children. They cannot sense the Holy Spirit. They don't have the angelic presence. They don't know anything about the miracles and interventions of God. And because they are raised in unbelief, they become unbelievers by default. So, and only in special cases does God's Spirit intervene in some of these people's lives, and they end up weeping and crying and realizing that Jesus is real. So that's basically what communism is. It's the most evil thing that's ever come on the government and political scene. um, probably since the times of the Romans, because the Romans were like that. So it's really, really bad, and the Muslims are bad too because they want to do similar things just in a slightly different way. Muslims are they're all sexual perverts. Understand this. Both communists and Muslims are sexual perverts to the core. So they're full of homosexuals, they're full of prostitutes, they're full of just all sorts of sexual bizarre stuff. But Muslims are even worse because they want to have 4 wives at the very least. And in some of these countries, even marry little girls. I'm not joking. The worst case is Iraq, where it's totally legal to marry a 9-year-old kid. It's the sickest thing. The more I studied this stuff, I mean, I was not even aware of this until a couple months ago, but the more I've read about it, I mean, this is the sickest stuff in the world. And And so when they do this stuff, they will cut off heads of Christians. They will cut off heads of Jews. They burn Bibles. They'll drag their dead bodies through the street, and then everybody yells and celebrates. It's the most wickedest stuff, dude. This is what happens when the devil comes into people's minds and just stays there. And this stuff is in the Democrat Party, and you should hate it. You should hate it, not the people. You should hate the idea that they have and want to preach against it because it's evil and it's wicked to the core. It's evil, it's anti-Christian, and it's anti-Semite to the core. And God is alarmed about it. And he's alarmed, and he's speaking through people, and he's alarming people. And we should be alarmed about it. God sets in his word, the book of Proverbs, says that the diligent hand will make us rich. If we go into business for ourselves and we keep on putting up a fight to not work for anybody else but ourselves, to find customers, not paychecks, to find customers, we will become rich. Proverbs 10:4. But communism wants to take our customers away. Communism wants to make us slaves. You should understand that. You should be situationally aware of that. You should be aware of the fact that the homosexuals are coming from the communist and the Democrat side. And a lot of the movies and all this stuff, we were just watching just earlier, me and Mick just watching Andy Griffith's show, and what comes on but a homosexual commercial about a drag queen program. All these bizarre homosexuals doing these weird dances, and here I am watching the Andy Griffith show with my 10-year-old daughter. That's coming from the communists and the Democrats. They're trying to brainwash you. They're trying to brainwash your mind. They're trying to pervert your mind so you become like them. To become anti-Christian and cut Christians' heads off. That's what they want you to do. Good. I'm glad you are full of righteous anger. That's good. God wants you to speak against this stuff. He wants you to pray against this stuff. There's a Now I want to segue into something else that's been burdening my heart. It's not about communism. It's about the Southern Baptist Church. There are 16 million Southern Baptist Christians in America right now. When you add all of the Pentecostals together, the best we can come up with is 6 million. So we're grossly outnumbered by the Southern Baptists. Sometimes people call the Southern Baptist Church Big Evangelicalism, or Big Eva for short. They've got a lot of money, got a lot of seminaries, a lot of schools, a lot of churches. All the finest churches in town are Southern Baptists. And for the longest time, the Southern Baptist Church has had people like Billy Graham and Paul Washer and all kinds of great preachers in it. But something is going on now in the Southern Baptist Church that's alarming, frightening, and scary. And I want you to stay away from these Southern Baptist churches. Don't go into them. They're called Southern Baptist churches. not independent Baptists. They have become increasingly anti-hell in their ideas, much like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes. Only positivity cult, self-help focused. Yes. They're becoming like that. Yes. So you need to be aware of this. This is the thing I want you to be aware of. I dealt with state, now I'm going to deal with church. You need to be situationally aware of this stuff. And of course, anything going on in the Southern Baptist Church affects all of the other Christian denominations because they blend. There's too many people out there who do not have theological convictions and think that all Christians are the same. And so anything that's going on in the Southern Baptist Church is really a signal of what's going on in all of Christendom, both Catholic and Protestant. And it's an anti-hell sort of sentiment. This idea that you die and you just don't even exist anymore. So there's it's to the point where people are little smiley emojis and just don't care. I'm not kidding. Like, and so that's what's in light of all of the other stuff that I was talking about. We have a weak, insipid church with absolutely no missionary zeal to bark out against sin in the church and warn the wicked of the wrath of God. There's no backbone in our Christianity, and the reason is porno, porn. It's just destroying everything, and of course, that also comes from communists. So that's what's going on. Be grieved. Be filled with holy anger. I've given you plenty to speak against and to pray against. And be aware that our neighbor across the street is a communist, which is why his truck is red. I said our neighbor across the street over there is a communist. That's why his truck is red. He has a red truck because he's a communist. Like I said, red was the color of the Russian flag. Because the man who used to stay over there on his porch said so before he was kicked out. And he's also anti-Christian and mean to the core. So I'm very certain he's a communist. But you need to be aware of the fact that our next door neighbor, they're Republican. Their family over there is Republican. These are Republican families. And I don't have any worries about that. So now, there's more to life than being a Republican. There's more to life than being anti-communist. Don't make this the main thing you think about. It can be hard not to when it sounds so horrific and terrifying. But we don't live in New York City. I'd be terrified if we lived in New York City right now. But you'd think that, but we got a communist right across the street here. So you need to have situational awareness. That's what I'm giving you here. Situational awareness. You need to become aware that we're not really in a 100% Christian believing country anymore. Even the Southern Baptist Church, as weak as can be, a weak, porn-ridden church that doesn't even want to talk about hell. And if you mention hell and give you a laughing smiley emoji, they don't care. They don't care. The point is that that's what the Southern Baptist Church is like. Not to be confused with independent Baptists, which is the churches we've been going to lately. Southern Baptists, you can tell because they have a symbol outside of their church, which looks like a sort of a white diamond-shaped cross, sort of a diamond-shaped prism-type white cross. Yeah. They're the ones that have got the spires and the steeples. But there's also a lot of other Southern Baptist churches that have different buildings types. And so the best way to figure out if something's a Southern Baptist church is just to go on the Southern Baptist website and see if that church is listed there. But I I urge you, and I put an official ban on all Southern Baptist churches going forward in this family. I don't want you to ever associate with any youth group or anything in the Southern Baptist churches as of now. I don't think that's a concern that we have, but I am absolutely situationally aware that there's just a bunch of apostates all over that group, and I do not want you to be part of it. That was Billy Graham's denomination, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that 25 years ago, but it is now. You mentioned hell, and everybody's laughs and emojis. You mentioned hell, everybody's like, what the H? They don't care. So it's a perfect setup for communism because we have godlessness outside the church and apathy and carelessness inside the church. It's a perfect setup for a communist takeover. Spiritually weak, everybody's completely brainwashed by pornography and communist ideology. It's a perfect setup for a communist Islamic takeover of this country. And that doesn't mean we need to give up, but it does mean, but listen, it does mean that we need to be aware. You might say, well, Dad, geez, why did you make me aware? Ignorance was bliss before, but now I'm just scared. Here's how we handle that. We don't think about it every single day. Fill your head with other content. But don't be dumb. The time will come where you'll become more aware of these things as you get older because you're going to feel more responsible as the pressure and the concept of voting comes into your purview. It's just as simple as this: vote Republican. And then you don't have to worry about contributing to something completely evil. But other than that, I would say I still believe that our government in Washington, D.C. has good Republican people in it, that our FBI is working overtime right now in taking down communist groups. And you need to know another thing. Communists don't come out and call themselves communists. They call themselves socialists, or they'll call themselves collectivists, or they'll call themselves Democrats. But really, they're communists. Okay. So you see, all these weird little words. They're the ones that make them up. They make up bourgeoisie. They make up socialism. They make up communism. They make up collectivism. It's all part of their cult. And you guys just need to be aware of these weird words and these weird concepts, because this is going to become part of the world that you guys are living in. And you should be rabidly anti-communist because they want to destroy our lives and our country. Capiche? That wraps everything up. Thanks for paying attention. What would normally be a very boring political conversation, I think you guys were actually paying attention. So that wraps up everything. And it's hard to pay attention to politics, but when your life is in danger, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is not just politics. This is my life. Yeah, politics should be boring, but they aren't right now. Exactly. And that's what's concerning. So, I mean, we should be worrying about how we should. This is what political news should be. We should still be talking about like how the Christmas was celebrated at the White House. And we should be doing reruns of the Christmas events at the White House. But no, we have to talk about somebody who was just killed for rebelling against the police because they're a communist. So I'm just telling you guys, like, just be aware. Be glad that we don't live in a big city because that's where these big time communist activities are going on. You know, part of the American dream is to not live in this city. It's to live in this country, Field of Dreams. That's why they called it Field of Dreams, American Dream. To live in a country, in a farmhouse. That should be our goal. I don't think Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden represented the last of the traditional Democrat concept. But I think that communists surrounded himself while he was in office. That's my personal opinion. Joe Biden represented the last of the Democrats because he was Catholic and he had those traditional Democrat concepts. We're seeing a new wave of something that could be just straight up called communism coming into the Democrat, and it's about Mamdani and it's about Bernie Sanders, and they call themselves socialists. Everybody say socialist. Okay, that gives them this image of being a Robin Hood figure that's going to rob from the rich and give to the poor, right? But at the end of the day, they're just communists. They want to do all those nasty communist things I was mentioning. Ultimately, that's what they want. You know what? They make riches to rags. It's the opposite of the American dream. They don't want you to go from rags to riches. They want you to go from riches to rags. That's what communism is. That's what communism is. And they also want to break up the family. Like I said, it is the most evil vision that has been ever concocted, maybe since the times of the barbarians. I mean, because it's like that. Like Vikings, raiders, going around stealing people and leaving blood all over the family room floor. That's communism. It's like Vikings. That's what I'm saying. It's like a Viking invasion in modern times. But you see, they're in the government already because they have been voted in, because they don't call themselves communists, they call themselves socialists and Democrats. That's what I've been trying to communicate to you. That's the bearing false testimony stuff. But if you know what communism's beliefs are, which now you do, when you hear a Democrat person talk on TV, you're going to be like, dude, that guy's straight up communist. Because you're going to hear the ideas coming out. It's more about ideas than it is about a label. Am I making sense? Don't tread on me. Don't tread on me is a traditional American expression about being against dictatorship and communism and tyranny. Don't tread on me. The 13 original colonies was drawn as a picture of a snake in 13 segments connected. And if you tread on me, I will bite you with a rattlesnake bite. That's what that is. So don't tread on me as an anti-communist symbol. Don't tread on me as an anti-tyrant symbol. And uh, and it's also a Metallica album concept. The Black Album was based on that. It's the don't tread on me snake. Don't tread on me is the symbol of the American independent spirit and not allowing ourselves to be controlled by dictatorship. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, yeah, we should get one too. Yeah, it's a Republican. That's a Republican symbol. Absolutely a Republican symbol. So anyway, thank you for paying attention. This stuff is kind of hard to follow, especially for kids. So thank you for paying attention. It's important. This is not the main thing. The Bible is the main thing. Family's the main thing. God's the main thing. But we do need to be aware of evil forces in our world, and communism is definitely one of them, and so is Islam. And they're all working together in the Democrat side of things.
and that's evil, and that's jacked up, and we should be against them. Am I making sense? Like if you find out that a communist leader, aka a Democrat leader, who's calls himself a Democrat, but he's actually communist, based on all the things that you've heard him say, and you find out that that guy gets arrested and goes to jail for some crime, you should be like, heck yeah, down with the communists. All right, that should be your whole idea going forward. Now, do you watch news every single day? No, I don't think that's a smart idea. But you guys do need to be aware of this, and that's why we had this time. Okay? I know what I'm going to do for my intro song on this podcast. It's Don't Tread on Me, Metallica song. That's what I'll do. Yeah, it is. No, the Don't Tread on Me flag comes from colonial times, from 1700s times. Yeah, it's back when we were 13 original colonies and not 50 states. It was an anti-England flag. Don't come over here and control us like a bunch of freaking communists or we'll bite you. That's what it means. So, um, anyway, that's everything. So it's good to be patriotic if you know what you're being patriotic about, right? Okay, good. All right, well that wraps that up. Thank you for paying attention.